So yesterday I said um, about the generalization, specialization, inheritance. Actually, I now if I give you a class diagram, I think you can identify all the attributes, operations, and all that, right? So one of the class diagram. This is not there for your syllabus, okay? So in your syllabus, there is nothing much for this module to begin with. What you have mainly is what are classes, object, all that you have, state models, OOMD, that things you have. Apart from that, you have this um, that is window example and that pump what I showed you. But this is only for your understanding. Okay, you can go through this once. The links and associations. Now, you have all forgotten, or do you people remember what is this link with an arrow marker? That is in case of add new book and this book size, the different classes, all that. I want you to go through. I'll give you 5 minutes. Then, if there are any questions, I'll answer. Okay? Okay, guys. Do you want me to explain? I think it is self explanatory. The different classes are library, customer, librarian, books, customer account, fine amount. And there are also, if you can observe, add new book. This one. Okay. This add new book, ma'am, this can be a function. No. Why it is a class? Will you not have that question? Yes. Correct, right? Add new book can be a function, ma'am, or it does not suit this. See, we can, one thing you have to make sure, or whenever you see class diagram, yes, some things it is all left to the imagination. See, how did we come up with this diagram, ma'am? It is only like software engineers or designers sit together, they identify what are the objects possible, and from that they come up with the classes. You might agree or you may not agree with it. You may say that this is not proper or this design is not good. Yes, it can be 100% possible. So the design like this or the class diagram or OOMD designer is all left to the designer or the engineer who is coming up with the design. See, we go to world famous architects or designers, right, to come up with a house plan. Why? We feel that with their experience and their knowledge, they can come up with a better plan or a design. Do you agree with me? Yes? Similarly, here also, if I design or you design, maybe it is not that very good. For this purpose only, to come up with the designs like this only, there are certain designations called architects. Have you heard about the term software architects? Yes? Have you heard? No? Okay. Jayam Akshay. Akshay. See, architects are people basically. So, do you think people who start with software engineers, they will be software engineers till after 50 years of experience? No, ma'am, they will become managers. See, once you start your to your general knowledge, once you begin your career as a software engineer, you go to team lead position. Okay, after team lead, when you go to the position, you can take a deviation. You can either go to the management side, like become a project manager, or you can become something like technical lead, and after that this goes on. See, either you go in the technical side or in the management side. In the technical side, you can grow up to the position of a software architect. See, he is a person who designs or come up with the design of the software. So in India, you wouldn't have heard so much of that. Why, ma'am? Because here we have only services we get from multinational companies. But in US and other companies, it is more common to have that position, software architects. Okay, their purely their work is to come up with the design of the product or the software which you are designing. Did you get it? Fine. See, in this figure, you have this add new book is a subclass of the books class. So there is an inheritance between this books and add new. Is there inheritance between books and library? Yes, Akshay. Yes, books and library. There is an inheritance. Okay, Harsh. So yesterday, what I did for 2 hours is an utter waste. Huh. Thank you. See, there is a relationship between books and libraries, okay? That is, there is an association, but there is no generalization or inheritance. Ma'am, how can you tell that, ma'am? See, maybe you can say it is required. You can come up with a design. I won't say that that design cannot be there. But in the current design, is there that relation? No. How, Rajayam, I identified it is not there? Please observe, in case of add new and books, the arrow mark points from add new book to books. Fine. So this arrow mark shows that it is a inheritance. That is nothing but generalization. But here between books and library, is there anything like that? No, right? So that's why there is no inheritance. Akshay, are you clear now? And in this case, books and add new books. Can you tell me which is the base class or the parent class and which is the child class? The child class gets the properties from the base, right? So which is the parent class here? Anyone? Between books and add new book. So what is books, Lavanya? Parent or child? Yes. Yes. Parent, and add new book is the child. See where the arrow mark is pointing to, that is always the superclass. Fine with this? So here also association, one dot dot star. See customer and library, the association is one or n number of customers can have be associated with one or n number of libraries. That is, one customer can be associated with one library or multiple libraries, or multiple customers can be associated with n number of libraries. That is what this customer and in the library and customer. Here, fine. See, this topic is not there too much for your this much depth you don't have for your examination. But why are you doing then, ma'am? See, this is the most general object oriented concepts which every student of computer science should be knowing. Okay, that is the reason in it, since it will be useful for your future, I have done. Fine. Similarly, you have for hospital based system. See, this is really complex, right? Compared to the others what you have seen. So as your project size increases, the class diagram size also will be more. See, it is so much confusing if you see this here. Usually the class diagrams are also divided into different levels, level 1, level 2, like that. Fine with this? You can go through for 5 minutes. I'm not going to explain it, guys. After that, I have one more topic. I'll finish that and my second module is done. This topic also, you don't have it down. I've not seen any questions, but still, why take risk? I will do that, okay? So, can I continue? Fine? Okay. I'll stop presenting and I'll go to the next slide because this one I. Okay, guys, can you see my screen? So next topic what you have is navigation of class models. I don't know how many of you have learned. Many of you would have learned object-oriented programming. This navigation and OCL, that is object constraint language, it is nothing but I said a class has attributes. General, what does this involve? First of all, is it visible, guys? My screen? Yeah, thank you. So first of all, what you will learn here is, see, every class you learned has a attribute and operations. So object which has to invoke that or use those, how does it do? So that is nothing but how do I use the values, attribute values or operations for a particular object. Now you know what is class, you know what is attribute, you know what are operations and object as well. Let's say I have I have a student class, okay, and in that I have attributes USN and name, and I have a operation by name. What can I say? Get percentile. Okay, so I try to do something and it will take too much of time. Okay, but anyway, this is my student class and I have USN, name and get marks. Let's say I have a student object for the same thing. Fine. And let's say the name of the student, whose name did I taken? Okay, Asta I had taken, right? So the student, I am taking an object that is Asta. Asta and student. This is how I write, right? Remember? And this has to be underlined. Okay. After that, how do I have name is equal to Asta USN is equal to, just write 01. Okay. And the operation also get marks will get her marks. Fine. See, how will I here I have these object. How can I get the values associated, attribute values associated with the name USN for the student object? That is what we are learning in this navigation of class models. How can I retrieve the values associated with the attribute for a particular object? For example, let's say one object is their student object, that is Asta. Let's give that some object some name here, right? So in order to use that a student object, to get the name, I will use dot operator and the attribute name. So I can say a student object, whatever the object name you are given, and I will use the dot operator. Dot is an operator which is used to access the attribute as well as functions associated with a class. Suppose now this a student dot object dot name is equal to, yes, here it is Asta. Suppose I want to get the marks associated with that student object. Then I will use the student object and dot and say get marks. So when I do this, this will get the marks associated with the student object. Let's say, for example, this has another function like get get project details. Okay, let's say I want to get the projects the student has worked on. Okay, whatever projects the student has worked on, I want to get those details. So I have this function. So in order to get that, I will say that student object use a dot operator and then the function name. So in order to access the members of a class, we will always, it has the general syntax of student object, then dot operator, then attribute or function name. When I say attribute here, name or USN, I just give this here. But when I'm calling a function, whatever arguments this function takes, assume this get marks is taking some argument, or get project details is getting taking argument maybe like data or year, right, which is of type integers, so that it gets the project details of a particular year. So that argument list, whatever is there, that should be passed to that function. So ultimately, only thing what I'm trying to explain you is, whenever you're trying to access these members, like the attributes or the functions, I use the dot operator. Dot, and some places or in some programming languages we use this arrow mark also. That is, instead of this dot, I can use arrow mark also. Did you get, all of you? I know for some of you this would be a little too much, or over the board, or those who have not learned object oriented programming, for you, you might feel that it is confusing, difficult, something like that. You people just remember, you are using dot or arrow operator to access the attribute values. Okay. So general syntax is always the object name, dot or arrow operator, then the attribute or the function. Just remember this for your examination sake. This is more than enough. Ma'am, but really, if I want to learn, next year you have the subject object oriented concepts, wherein you will learn whatever you learned now, classes, object, navigation, all that you will be applying in Java and C++, and you will learn there how to program. Fine. Shall I go further? Okay. Okay. Navigation of class models. Here we have class models can express the structure of an application. See, basically, how your application is, it is expressed through class models. That is what you saw, right? Library management system, student system, hospital based management system. Then you had Windows based system. For all of those applications, they have come up with a class model. We can also express the behavior of navigating among classes. How we can go through classes, how we can access, How can we access the elements within the class? That also we can express. Navigation is important. Why do we require these navigation among classes? Because it lets you exercise a model, uncover the hidden flaws and omissions that you can repair them. See, it will say this navigation how to use this model. How does this model work? That is given by this navigation. And also, if there are any problems with your model, you can make out. See, if I had made a mistake in student class, then while accessing the function or by giving the name or a USN, I would have made out, oh, this is not possible. Then this has to be removed. Yes, it is possible. See, one stretch you cannot never come up with a class model. You will start with it, you will start working on that, this navigation and all we'll do, you will write use cases on that, and even after design while implementing you might see some issues or problems, then you will change it. It can never be perfect all the time. Okay. Yes, this can be performed manually or write navigation expressions. Yes, you can write the expressions or you can do it manually. Now, there are a different of, ma'am, what are these expressions? This is what I said. If I want to get the name of a student, then I will say object name dot and the name. Okay. So they have taken an example for you. They have taken for in your syllabus. For this, they have taken an example for this mailing system. Okay. Simple model for credit card holders, that is credit card accounts. Now, can you people all go through this class diagram and can you understand? I have taught you, right, how to go through this. How many classes are there? Is there an association? Is there a generalization? All of that. Now, this is that is which one, you know? Mm, This is nothing but qualified association. That's it. What is the unique key between this here and here? That is given here. So this is known as qualified associations. I have done it in the class. Here also. This is a qualified association. If you have forgotten. The rest and all it is the same. And what is this? This is nothing but an association name here. Okay. Can you go through this? Everyone, can you understand this and let me know? I'll ask questions. What are the different classes? Is there any inheritance? Is there any association? What is that association? What is the multiplicity of association? That is star star, one star. What does it mean? Zero, one. What does this mean? I want you to analyze it. And after that, I will ask any person, any student here who is present now, those questions on that. Fine. I think you can do this. Yes or no? Haven't I given you enough number of examples? Right? Okay. How many minutes do you need? 3 minutes, 4 minutes? Enough? Yes, Lavanya, how many minutes do you need? Okay. Lavanya says 5 to 6 minutes. Fine. Okay, guys, very simple, no? See, there is a credit card institution, can be a bank kind, okay? And with that, there is a credit card account, and there are transaction statement. You can argue, ma'am, this is not correct. It should have been, but let's not to go there. Let's see how this is all associated. Okay, if there is a transaction, in that transaction you have subclasses are cash advance, interest, purchase fee, adjustment, and merchant. Yes, I can also argue these cannot be subclasses, but fine, these are all subclasses of this transaction class. Okay. Now the statement is associated with the transaction. What does it mean? Every time a transaction is made 0 or 1, there is updated to the transaction number. That is statement here. One statement is associated with 0 or more, 0 or 1 transaction. Okay. So with the statement, there is a transaction number. Fine. And there is a statement date which I have, which is between the statement and the credit card account. Fine. Suppose I want to get a credit card account for a particular credit card account, a statement between a start date and the given end date. How will I find it? Did you get my point? So, like this. Suppose I want to find the mailing address of a particular credit card account holder. Fine. How will I find? So if there is a customer, how will I get the data? All these things. If I want to process this or get the information regarding these, then I can use nothing but navigate through these class model in order to get the data. Okay. So some of the things are see, for that credit card account, this is a variety of questions can be posed, like what transactions account for the particular credit card account within a time interval. Okay, the volume of transactions that were handled by an institution in the last year. See, this is the statement. Okay, the statement that is here. Something this and this. Okay, so this is the statement there, that part. Then we say the transaction. The second case is what is the transaction? I'm sorry, what volume of transactions were handled by the institution in the last year? Okay, so that would be something here. The institution and the transaction, what was handled for a particular last year that you want to take, yes, that is here. Okay, so like this, how do I get it? That is by navigating to the class models. Fine. So the UML incorporates a language that can express these kinds of questions. So you can find the answers for these kinds of questions using UML, that is nothing but OCL, Object Constraint Language. Fine. And what does this language involve? The language involves a dot operator, or a greater than operator. If I'm accessing the attribute values, I can traverse from an object to a particular attribute value using a dot operator. So syntax is source object followed by dot and then the attribute name. Here, the credit card maximum limit, if you can see, there is a maximum limit, right? A maximum credit that is allowed for a particular credit card. How do I get it? It is possible through the object name dot, and I use the maximum credit. Similarly, if I want to invoke an operation, then again I will use, let's say, where is there any operation here? That in this example there is no operation, guys. So that's the reason. But if there is an operation, I taught you in the student and the class example, right? Similarly, there I can use a dot operator or an arrow operator to call that function, and that function will take a arguments within the parenthesis. Okay. Next you have simple associations, like these simple association can be used to traverse an association to target to a target end. The target end may be indicated by an association end name, or where there is no ambiguity, a class name. Let's say I want to access the mailing address of a particular customer. Okay, so mailing address of a particular customer, right? So I can take the I can take a credit card object here and then get the mailing address. A customer, either I can go through a customer here, that is, sorry, either I can go through a customer here and from that I can get the mailing address, or I can go from a credit card account object and from there I can get an address. Are you able to get? Did you understand? All of you? Yes or no? See, how can I access an address, mailing address? I can access a mailing address either through the customer and going from the customer mailing address to this one here, a customer and a mailing address here, or from the credit card object from going here. Okay, when from going from the credit card account, I can access only a single address. If I'm going from a customer, I can access multiple addresses. Okay, then I have a qualified association. Qualified association is nothing but this. If I'm trying to get a transaction, a unique transaction for a particular credit card account, then I can use a transaction number and get that. How is it possible? Here, let's say for example, I have not given that. Okay, here a credit card number and statement. Here I'll give the transaction number or a data. Okay, which acts as a qualified association to get that. And also, if we have a link in within an association, we can find the objects with that associated with that. Yes, and then you have generalization. Traversals of generalization hierarchy is implicit for the OCL notation. That is, you can also traverse through generalization, that is nothing but inheritance, using OCL notation. Here, what happens is we use that arrow marker. More than one arrow mark can be used and we can traverse. Next, what we can do is we can filter. What do I mean by filter? Filter means nothing but matching patterns. Okay, I want to select a particular things within my classes. Let's say, for example, I want to select all the transaction which happened above after certain data, or I want to select all the transaction which involve more than some particular amount. Such kinds of filtering operation can also be done using OCL notation. For example, here I want to select all the transactions which where the amount is greater than $100. Then I will say a statement and the transaction here and select. Most of the times, in order to do the filtering operation, I use select statement. So select and where the amount is greater than $100. Like this, I can do filtering. Okay, so filtering involves nothing but select. Fine with this? Next, you have is building OCL expressions. See, here they have not given you as an exercise to come up with your own expressions or something like that. I don't know, because you're not familiar with OOPS, that's the reason or something. Whatever it is, more they have taken the example of that credit card and they have explained. So I will limit myself to only that much. Otherwise, it will be simply out of the syllabus, learning more than required. Okay, so I can build OCL expressions. So the thing is, whenever we are bringing an OCL expression, we can combine several things together. That is, this OCL combines primitive constructs and expressions. That's the real power of it. So you can combine all the things in order to form the OCL expression. What are the several things I can combine? I can combine filters, I can combine qualifiers, operators, and all that, and come up with my expression. For example, I want to get all the transactions from a particular start date and end date. Okay, so then I will say a credit card account, a credit card account, and a statement, and in that transaction, and in that I will say select the transaction which has a start date which is less than this date, and a transaction date which is this one. Assume I want all in this date, and that I want all the transactions which are greater than $100. Then again I can use and command here, and something like this, amount is greater than $100. Okay, something like this. So I am combining filtration, I am combining this qualifiers, I am combining operators, greater than or equal to, I am combining logical operators also, and coming up with an OCL expression. So the real thing what we want to explain here is, you can come up with complex OCL expressions using all the things what I explained here: simple association, classes, generalization, filters, qualifiers, all that you can use and come up with an OCL expression. Fine, to perform operations. Basically, what we are trying to tell is, not only can you create classes and objects in OOMD here, you can, after you have created, you can perform operations on that also. And it is easier when you do like that. That is what is this. Any doubts here? This is what they have given for association class model. Multiple associations can lead. If you see, there is star and star male. There are multiple a person, multiple people. Mm, so if you see here, this is a star, right? And this is a star. So what does that mean? Multiple people can have multiple mailing addresses. An object diagram for that they have given. Address, mailing addresses here. Some three or four, there are around four mailing address. If you see a person by name John, the same person is associated with true addresses. Yes, here also Mary. So single person here can have multiple addresses. That is what they are trying to convey. And when it is possible like that, if this yields multiple values, then we call it as a back. I'm sorry, I forgot it. If like this, a single object can yield multiple values, then we call it as a back. But instead of that, if it can yields only a single value, then it is called as a singleton. So let's say, for example, here instead of star, I had 1. That is 1. Okay. So there is no star. I have 1. So multiple people can have only one address. So it means the type of relationship or the association yields only a single value. Then it is known as singleton. If there is only one. Now there is no one, we have star. So it means that star means it can have multiple values, right? So it is called back. Bag means multiple, singleton means single. Any doubts? Any doubts, guys? Okay, then. Let me stop sharing. Give me 2 minutes. I need to download. So this completes my second module. Okay. So we'll start with the third module. So okay, guys. I hope you can see my screen. See how the structure of your syllabus is. First module you learned, first topic what you learned, introduction, correct? There you learned what is software engineering and some use cases. Excuse me. Next, what you learned in software process models, you learned waterfall model, incremental model, and spiral model, right? And process activities. Do you remember requirements, design, implementation, testing, and evolution? You learned in process activities. Yes. After that, the four activities you learned in process. Then I said, your entire software engineering is nothing but the what? Those four things. Agree? Yes or no? All of you. See, in process activities, what and all you learnt. Here only I will type requirements, design, correct? Then implementation, design and implementation is one phase. Okay. Then we said testing. Then we said evolution. Correct? Do you all remember that? Remember or do not remember? Yeah, you all remember, right? So in this, what did you complete now? What did you finish learning in these four steps or five steps? Which one did you complete? You've not learnt anything, Abhishek? Remember requirements, interviews, all that I told you about. Shivani, what did you learn, ma? Nothing? Are you there, Shivani? Requirements, Shivani? Sure. So, see, all of you should understand here we are done with the requirements, first phase. Yes, first step. Next, we have design. See, in design, there are two kinds of design. One is object oriented design, which applies for object oriented programming and which is different from normal procedure oriented. That design, okay, what they have done is they have split it into two, object oriented and normal design. The object oriented design you have learnt here. What was that? Class diagrams. Do you remember now what I did in the second module till now? Yes, you learnt. Ma'am, I don't know about design, but did you learn about object oriented and classes and objects? Enough, I have bugged you, right? Last class though everyone I took. Fine. At least that one you will remember. You troubled me enough with that, ma'am. Yes. So now in the second module, you learned about design. Design in object oriented. But in procedure oriented also you have design that you will be learning in third module. See, this design you are done. Then you have a system models. Okay, and design and implementation. So this third module also, second and third module will cover your design phase, design as well as implementation. If you see in the third module, you have something known as implementation. Okay, fine. So your design and implementation we will be covering in third module. Fine. In fourth module, what do you have? Testing and evolution. What are these? These are in your next phase, right? That is done in fourth module. Then in fifth module, you have project planning and quality management. Ma'am, these are not there in the activities. Yes, but this comes under very important thing in project execution is or software engineering is project planning and how do you plan your project so that it is a success. And also once whatever you have developed, how do you ensure it is a quality product? How do you do that? That is covered in fifth module. Did you now understand the flow? Yes. How it is? Why you are learning? Why we are going like this? So if you have to start from first and you're going down one after the other. So the third module is nothing but system models which come under design. Okay. So what is this system model? That is I am I will be starting with system models today. In the system models, actually this part is a little too much is there for this. Lots of diagrams, too much involved. Fine, but nothing can be done. You have to prepare. Okay, so let's start with the third module that is nothing but system models. Before I start, I'll take the attendance for today's class. So now did you understand what you're trying to learn in this subject? All of you? Yes or no? what you are learning? Are you aware what this subject is and what you are trying to learn? Yeah? Okay. Next class, I'll ask that also. Answer your attendance. Lesson 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, absent. Okay. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 is present, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24, okay, 25 present, 26, 27, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 40, 41, 46, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 7, 57, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 67, 68, 69, 69, 70, 71, 72, 3, 4, 74, 76, 76, 77, okay, 76 present. Okay, okay, 82, 83, 84, 84 absent, okay, 85, 86, 89 and 90. So anyone else who is present? 5 is present, okay. 58, okay. 46, okay. One second, guys. Following the students are the students who are my marked absent for today. If in case you're present, let me know. 26 you're present. Okay. 69 you're present. Okay. So in system models, these are the topics that are covered. Okay. One second. So what is system modeling? It involves developing an abstract model of the system, and each model represents a different view or a perspective of the system. Now in system modeling, you come up with a model, but it is not a single model. You come up with different models. Why different models? Different models for different perspectives or for different views of the system. Okay, that's why you have context model and like that. Okay, system modeling has now come up with a mean for representing a system using some kind of graphical notation, which is now almost always based on the notations in unified modeling language. See, how can I develop a model? Can I develop in any way I want? No, most of the times we come up with a model using graphical notations. Okay, and this graphical notations are based on the unified modeling language that over second module what you learnt, that rectangle, that box for a class, and colon underlying of objects, all that are also based on this UML, unified modeling language. So it is a language which has graphical notations. See, for a class, if you ask me, ma'am, for a class why did you use rectangle and not circle or oval, then my answer is, sir, in unified modeling language they have said for a class you have to use a box that is rectangle like that. That is why I have come up. So this language, UML language, tells us how to come up with the modeling, or it is has different notations for coming up with a model. Okay, so what is the use of the system modeling? It helps the analyst to understand the functionality of the system, and models are used to communicate with the customer. Okay, see, it has two uses. One, for the people who are building the system, it will allow them to understand what they are trying to build, and for the customers, they will get to know how their product will be. Okay, now see, you can come up with a model based on the existing systems. Okay, models of the existing system are used during requirements gathering. So the one way is, if there is already a model, you can go through it in order to gather the requirements. While gathering the requirements, while seeing that model, we also observe what are its strengths and weaknesses. And based on its weaknesses, we come up with the new requirements. Okay, models of a new system. One second. Yeah. The models of the new system are used during requirements gathering to help explain the proposed requirements to the other system stakeholders. Engineers use these models to discuss design proposals and to document the system for implementation. See, So during the requirements gathering only you can come up with a model, or after the requirements gathering. So once you come up with a model, it will allow them to understand the design, and also it serves as a document for the implementation, or it serves as an input for the implementation. So once we have come up with the, there is something known as model driven engineering process. So if I follow this model driven engineering process, what the advantage is, by the time I complete the model, partial system implementation is also done. So, in model driven engineering process, what it does is it combines during the modeling stage itself the implementation things. So, either partial or complete implementation will be done during the modeling phase itself. So, that is nothing but model driven engineering process which you have uh, in this module only you have. Okay. Now, while coming up with a model of a system, there are different perspectives which we look into. One is the external perspective. Okay, what is the external perspective? External perspective means where you can model the context or the environment of the system. Ma'am, environment is not required. See, we have already told, if you are not considering the environment in which the product is being developed, it will be, it will lead to the product going to scrap. It means that no one will use. So the external perspective is very important. Then you have interaction perspective, where the model interacts with the where the model shows the interactions between the system and its environment. Now system and its environment, and also within the system. So interaction model or perspective will show how the interaction between the system takes place. Now, who can call what, and how can it be called? What is their relationship, associations, that kind. Whereas in external, you see how we can create, how will it work, all that. Okay. In structural perspective, where we can model the organization of the system or the structure of the data that is processed by the system. So in structure, you see the organization of the system as well as structure of the data. Behavior perspective is where you model the dynamic behavior of the system and how it responds to the event. Like if something happens, how does the response be? That is given in the behavioral perspective. See, external means environment. Interaction means, ma'am, interaction and behavior, they are not the same. Interaction means how it behaves with the system and the environment, and also along with its same components. Okay. A structural perspective is how the data is organized, how the system is organized. That is structural perspective. Behavior is nothing but how the system responds to a particular event. Okay. Mm, okay, I will give you an example. Software is logging into my Gmail. All of you, are you listening? I have a software that is logging a email account. Okay, can you give an example for all the four: external, interaction, structural, and behavioral perspective of that system? Are you getting my point? Can you see my screen first of all? Yes, students. Okay. For a mailing system, can you say the what are the different perspectives? Examples can you give? Okay, I will give you an example. An external perspective. I will say my Google account or the software should work for any of the browsers. current browsers. Okay, fine. Next, in interaction perspective, I will say I should have a normal account or as well as admin account. A normal account for a user to do any kinds of job, and an admin who does creation of the accounts or something like that. A structural perspective, it is the data that is used in the system. Yes, maybe email account, user login details, all that will come under structural perspective. Behavioral perspective, let's say some unauthorized user logs in into the system. How the system behaves, that is given in the behavioral perspective. See, your software project, what I'm talking about is only one product, but there are so many things you have to consider. So, in order to support all that, you have these perspectives. Yeah, am I clear? So, in order to support all the four perspectives there, you have UML diagrams. Fine, if I say this perspective has to be supported, how will it be supported? It will be supported by different UML diagram types. First is the activity diagram. Activity diagram shows the activities involved in a process and the data how it is processed. So, how the activities takes place and how the data is processed within them is given within the activity diagram. More about it you will learn. That is what you will learn in this entire module. Okay, don't worry. Use case diagrams, I think already I have told. Use case diagrams shows how the interaction takes place between the system and its environment. One person and oval interacting with this particular eclipse. Yeah, so interactions are given by use case diagrams. Sequence diagram. Sequence diagram also give you interaction, but in what sequence these interactions are represented, that is given, that is the timing constraints, that is given within your sequence diagrams. Next you have class diagrams. Now, what are the objects and how are they associated? Now, class diagram I will not explain. Okay, I think I have done enough of explanation in the previous classes. Agree with me? Yes. And I will ask any one of you students to explain about class diagrams. Lastly, you have state diagrams. State diagrams show how the system reacts to internal and external events. Okay, so all these diagrams will allow you to model so that you can show the problem in different perspectives for the user. Ma'am, all this we have to do. See, for some cases some things are not applicable. For example, if we are developing it using procedure oriented programming, class diagram does not come into picture. Okay, if you are doing a use a system side programming, then use case diagrams will not come into picture. Okay, so we can't say all of them will come into picture. Some of them may and some of them may not. So what is applicable to your project, those diagrams you will select and represent those system, model your problem using these diagrams. That is, you will model your problem using these diagrams. Am I clear? So activity diagram which shows data processing, use case diagram which shows interaction between the system and environments, sequence diagram interaction between actors and systems between the sequence between them. Whereas class diagrams, objects, state diagrams, internal events or external events. Yes. Any doubts? You can go through this once. You go. You can go through this. I will. I'll just be back in 2 minutes. Okay. Okay, guys. Now, what you will learn is, ma'am, only one line is there. Yes, I know. For the four cases, that is you learned, right? Health patient healthcare monitoring system, and that mental health care, and that insulin pump, and whether for those cases, for those example, they will, in your textbook, they will give you how to come up with activity, use case, sequence, class diagrams, and state diagrams. Okay. So, use of graphical models as a means of facilitating discussion. Okay, not required. So, what is context models? Now, I will take attendance again at 11:05, and that will be the second class attendance. So, those who have all logged out, see Manasa 65 ಆಗ 75 80 ಇದ್ದವರು ಈಗ 65 I will take again attendance now, And this time, if you say network connectivity not there, then I'm not going to agree with that. See, yes, by doing so, what happens is people who are genuinely who had network issues, I can't trust them also. Correct, right? How can there be 80 students when I took the attendance and now there are 65? Yeah, message them. Let them come back. Or I will mark them absent. And genuinely, while taking attendance, if someone has really not that network connection, I cannot do anything. Next topic is context models. Context models are used to illustrate the operational context of a system. They show what lies outside the system boundaries. Okay, so they show the operational constructs of the system and they tell what lies outside the system boundaries. Social and organizational concerns may affect the decision on where to position the system boundaries. Architectural models shows the system and the relationship between the other systems. Here, main thing is it gives the overall structure of the architecture of the system. Ma'am, you might tell, yes, I am designing the system, but you should also keep in mind how it interacts with the other systems. So that is given in context model. So it basically shows the relationship of the system with the others. Okay. So what are system boundaries? System boundaries are established to define what is inside and what is outside the system. See, why is this required is most of the times there is always a problem to for the people who are developing to get to know the scope of their work. I hope you all understand scope, right? Most of the times there is a fight, right? It does not come under my scope. It is comes under theirs. We fight about it, right? So whenever we come up with the system boundaries, we will get to know what I should do and what I should not do, which is which comes under my control and which is not under my control. So by defining the boundaries and coming to know about the functionalities, this problem or whatever issues are there, it will be resolved. Most of the times the issues between the customer and the developer. See, the customer may want A, B, C, everything. But when we have defined the boundary, we will be telling the customer that my scope is only A and B. C and D is not my scope. Best example is my scope is as a faculty to give you assignments, to give you notes, and to teach you. Writing assignments and giving the correct answer for the assignment, searching and coming, it is not my scope. As a student, it is your job to come up, right? But both of us can fight on this. Yes or no? You will argue why, ma'am, it is your duty to give the assignment answers also. Will you not argue with me for that? Yeah? We can have 1 hour discussion on that, right? Yes or no? Comment. Will you agree? See, as soon as I said it is your scope, I came to the topic of your assignment. All of you are silent. Yes, guys. No comments. What, all of you are mute? Okay. Then it means that. Ah. So then it means that you people really want to have an argument with me on this. Correct? Okay. I will not continue then. So it is very good to define a system boundary. Now, in our case, the boundary is not set up. Okay, the principal also or the department has not set the boundary what I should do. So that's the reason we are having that conflict. Correct, right? So next time, let's fix that boundary. Okay, guys. Um, So, defining a system boundary, yes, it is a political judgment. There may be pressures to develop a system boundary that increase or decrease the influence or workload of different parts of the organization. Correct? No, that is not what we are facing right now. If it comes under that boundary, comes to me assignment giving answers, then my workload is increased. If you have to write the answers, whose workload will increase? Yes, your workload is increased. That is why we are fighting, right? So we always, whenever we come up with a product development, we have to identify the boundaries. Okay. Okay, guys, shall I continue or stop? Am I audible, or why am I not getting any responses from you? Enough, Ankita. Okay, thank you at least for that. USN 89, are you present? USN 59, are you present? 59. Okay, fine. 59 and 89. And 89. Okay, guys. Fine. Thank you, students. 38. Okay. 62, I have marked you present. 38, Deepa. Deepa, you were not there till now. How come only now you are there and you want me to give attendance? I called out so many times. You were not present. All of a sudden, now you have telling. Yeah, that is what. After your 38 was over, only at the last I called out the numbers. What were you doing then? See, if this goes on repeating everyone, you start doing this. Okay, fine, I'm giving you now. But if this goes on next time, then I will not be able to give attendance. Okay, fine. Okay, guys, thank you.